It's close enough to 7 and the power's on.
What's it?
We're being recorded, so I guess we may as well
Oh.
start the meeting.
Okay.
It says here, President's remarks. The President is feeling very, very quiet this evening.
That's a first.
He doesn't really have much to say. Aren't we all lucky? Public comment, is there any public comment? Well, we'll hear from Peter later, but do you have a comment as public? Oh, see that, we're moving right along. Approval of minutes, have people read the minutes from last month's meeting? Any comments? A motion to accept the minutes? A second? All in favor? Oh, I'm not sure, was that a maybe? All opposed? Passed, okay, the minutes are approved, we're moving right along. Office update.
Yes, that's me. I have, as you know, been filing claims. I'm actually doing it a little differently now, just to let you know. It's an online thing now, which I kind of thought, I have kind of avoided it because it's, you know, when you get on the website where you start to do it, it tells you once you start doing it, you can't go back to doing it by paper. But I finally decided, well, I should do this, it's probably better. So I expected, instead of all these forms to fill out, I expected drop-down menus, type it all in, there it is. No, you still fill out the forms, get every single page I've been getting anyway. The only difference is that instead of making copies for each defendant and so on, which is time consuming, now you just upload. I have to scan them and upload them to the site now.
You still have to scan them?
Now, well, yes, I have to scan, and everything separately. Everything,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
7 documents, I think.
It's paperwork on the computer.
So it's kind of neat because as soon as they get it on their end, it's right on the judiciary page. And I actually had a man call, he happened to be looking on the judiciary page, the judiciary claims and small claims court. I don't know why he might have been looking for himself, but in any case, he saw that it was there immediately. And he called me, and just as an aside, he came in and paid with a certified check, so I could immediately take him off the, cancel the claim. But it will remain there. There's no removing it from the civil. A criminal case, you can get expunged, I guess, with certain cause, but a civil case remains there forever.
That sounds silly.
Well, he said, that my job is, I can't have these kinds of things on my record. And I said, well, sir, it had only been 3 years. I mean, I've got people who are in arrears even further. So he said, I just thought it was a little aggressive. He wasn't really angry with me. He didn't yell at me as some
Didn't you
people have
send him a
done.
letter first though, like you
I
normally?
sent him a letter in
Oh,
July
we're being aggressive.
with a little tag
I
on it.
hate forward people.
And I said, I send out statements every single year, and in July, for people who were in arrears and in danger of having a claim filed, I sent a statement with a little tag on it saying, you're about to have a claim filed. You know what he told me? He said, well, I just get my mail, I get so much junk mail, I just take it out of my box and I throw it away.
I do the same, but
That's great.
I usually look
I
at the
looked
return address.
through
Yeah.
it. So, and he was very nice, but he was just thought we were a little aggressive. Anyway,
3 years in arrears.
3 years in arrears.
We're aggressive.
Exactly. And
So his thing will be on there?
it'll be on there in
Forever?
perpetuity. Yeah, if you go on there and you find somebody that has had cases filed, you can go clear back to the 80s. Maybe like in a divorce judgment would be there. Bankruptcies. That's why I go on there. I look for bankruptcies, foreclosures, so that I don't file and then find out they're foreclosed on and then I can't collect anyway. So that's why I go on there in the first place. But he happened to be on there that day looking.
That's very strange in itself.
He had a premonition.
Maybe so, maybe
The
so.
fact
Or
that it never gets cleared,
it does not care.
Do you put that information in the letter saying, by the way, whatever legal, if we file.
It's a good
claim,
idea.
It can't be.
It will stay on your
expunged.
record.
Yeah,
That's a
I
good idea. I didn't really think of
Well,
it.
That's
I
really
knew
good.
it,
That's
but I didn't
excessively
think of it.
aggressive.
No, we'll think of it,
somebody who has a top secret clearance. He doesn't work for the government, he told me who he works for, I don't remember, and I wouldn't say it here
But if
anyway.
you put that in there, then they can't say, "Oh, I had no idea," you know.
This is true, unless they throw their mail away, then.
Oh,
they
yes,
say,
yes,
I
they-
did.
And I guess they have more problems than just this one claim.
Exactly,
Pay
exactly.
bills and-
I did have another one, I just got notice today that was successfully delivered by the sheriff, so that's good, that's a good thing. And just also with regard to how much I've been able to collect with these claims and sort of like notable payments since July, when I sent that letter out, a little more, well, about 12,425 I've gotten, so I think that's pretty good. I think it's well worth the time.
That's good, okay.
Yeah. Reminder that we need a nominating committee in time for the meeting on December 8th, I think it is.
Yes, every damn year. It's a pain, it really is. Ask me
Then we're gonna have
every-
to find people who wanna run.
Yeah.
Well, I know, yeah.
Yes,
that's-
that's-
How many seats are up?
Oh,
I haven't even looked at
Yeah,
that, I
yeah.
should. I
And
will.
remember,
I
we
didn't
had to
think of
figure
that.
out who replaced whom, and therefore we knew how long, and, oh,
It should only be 3, because we haven't had anybody resign, so it will be just 3.
Question is, what they're,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't think to look at that, but I will. Oktoberfest, which you missed, Gina.
I understand it was quite a success.
It went quite well, the band was great. I mean, I really, Josh is a great dancer. I will
Well,
say.
I enjoyed it, I have to say, but the band was great.
They were very
It would have
good.
been nice to have more people,
It
but the
would've
weather
been
wasn't
nice.
great.
The weather wasn't great. It
And
wasn't.
there was like one kid, you know, because they had the hay rides
Right.
and the, you know.
Right.
well, they
And we did it
yeah,
inside,
rides, yeah.
so that
Yeah.
worked out weather-wise, other
Yeah.
than the guys on the grill, like they were. up
because
on
we were
the
inside, it
pavilion.
didn't rain.
Well, we just had a cool one.
It was
Yeah,
kinda
I see.
yucky.
Yeah, every day.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I thought so. It was $272 that we spent on food, brats and sodas and water and so on. There was quite a bit left over. I don't know how to avoid that, you know.
You don't know how
You
many
don't know,
people are
yeah,
there.
you don't know
have
who's
no
gonna
idea
show
who
up.
will be there. And plus, a lot of people brought sides. So, I mean, a lot of people did, so that was nice. And I don't know, I didn't really count, but maybe between 50 and 70 people throughout the day, because some came and then left. and
I think
so
for
on.
some people it was loud, because we had our older neighbors that
Right.
came, and they just stayed for, you know, a little bit,
Right.
and then they,
Right.
That was the only
Big
problem.
indoors, yeah, big
But-
indoors, it was just
Yeah,
very loud.
yeah.
but it's, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, I heard from one of the,
Yeah.
Jane Lusek,
Uh-huh.
her husband,
Yeah, she
Ed,
helped out. Yeah, they both threw their help.
and, you know, and she did say that the band was a little loud, but, you know, it was inside.
Right.
and-
That's a small room for a big
Right,
band like
Well, I
right,
wonder if
right, yeah.
next year, if it's inside like that, if we could have a couple of tables set in the other room, in the
Yeah.
other
Yes,
room,
in the
whatever that.
I think that's not a bad
called.
idea, because you
Mhm.
know, people weren't sitting in that first row, I think, because it was like,
Oh,
Oh, right,
that's
right.
Oh, yeah.
I was in the back and it was very loud.
Yeah.
You couldn't have a conversation.
right,
You
but I
couldn't
think
have
outside it
conversation.
would have been fine,
Oh,
yeah.
that's
Oh,
true,
yeah,
yeah,
that's
absolutely,
yeah.
yeah.
Could have turned it down some, I guess. Band, didn't seem like that was a good idea.
No.
He did ask us, though.
Oh, did
It
you?
was too loud.
Nobody spoke up.
No?
No, that's it for me.
All right, good. Well, you know what? Let's,
Oh, I have a question.
Oh.
The audit,
The audit, we finally did receive the final, I sent it out, just so you know, but yeah,
have we paid them?
yes.
Okay,
have you,
that was the question.
did you
Oh,
throw it out
yeah.
with the rest of your chocolate?
No, I saw it.
That comes out of the STD,
I don't
so,
bother reading the audit anymore, because it's the same every year. You guys are great.
right. If,
That's
I
all
don't
we're
recall when
waiting.
the check hit.
Hmm?
The check may not be on the,
Well, it was 3,500.
I didn't see professional
Well-
fees there.
is it there?
Yeah, 3,500.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's why I was asking.
Well, if it's on there, it means I paid it.
I was wondering if there was more to come.
No, I don't think so.
All right, Asha, what do you want to talk about?
I'm good, I'll pass.
Gina,
I'm okay.
Jack,
Is this the round table?
Yeah, roundtable committee,
Roundtable
everything.
report. Oh, it's
This
all
is
one?
it, yeah, all in one,
All right.
a friendly group.
Well, everything on the budget side, the expenditure side, looks pretty good. Everything's within expectations. A couple of things to point out, Tria pointed out to me tonight, that I remarked earlier tonight, was the interest that we're getting on our new bank accounts is $345 so far, which is in the sweep account. The municipal accounts.
That's just since July.
Yeah. As opposed to like a couple of bucks
Right.
before, so,
And offset by a bunch of bank fees.
yeah.
No, I mean,
Oh,
before.
yeah, right.
So that's working out. What else? Tree trimming, we spent a little more than planned on that. I think that was a 3-year cutback, is that for that,
Yeah.
tree trimming?
Well, that's not what that expense is right there, that's just random trees that have been taken down and so on. The cutback, he's finally kind of started, that's gonna be 17,000 or so.
Okay.
But that will come out of shore funds.
Right, it's another line.
So that's, and there's plenty in the Sure account because we've had one time per year apparently grant, $10,000.
Really?
Yeah, it happened last year too. So there's like
We can send a
31,000.
personal thank you to Larry.
Yeah. Mr. Hogan, thank you.
Yeah, we were expecting 7. Is it 10 plus the 7 we were expecting, or is it just 3 more than we were expecting?
But it comes from a
We
period.
get a monthly, pretty much once a month or maybe every 2 months, we get a deposit. It's usually anywhere from several hundred, maybe 1,000, something like that a month. Sometimes it'll go for 2 months and we don't get anything, and then suddenly we get 1,000. It just varies, it's
What's it
very
based on?
random.
Yeah,
Pardon?
what's it based on?
Gasoline? It's a
Well, the Sure money comes from registration fees, a portion of it. Taxes on vehicle registrations, taxes on inspections, and taxes on gasoline. There's something else in there too. So it's tax-based.
So is this because we're managing our own roads, is that why?
Yeah, so
I mean, that's what's because of
we
that.
tail on to the county.
Mhm.
The county includes our roads in theirs, and then when they get their pay, they
That's good. of them.
do a prorated by the mile type thing, and we get some.
But we only get the gasoline portion of it.
Yeah, they keep the rest.
They keep the rest of it. We tried a number of years ago to go after the vehicle pay percentage because it would have been a good bit of money.
Oh, no.
And they made us sign an agreement, what was it,
Which we
that we wouldn't do
changed.
that. I don't know.
We changed it, we reworded some of that.
Yeah, but that section of it,
Yeah.
I think it's still in there, isn't
Yeah, if you want to get it all, I mean, I'm signing this.
it? Right, oh, okay, exactly.
After all, this is the government. You want anything at all? Well, we can talk about this for the next 20 years and you ain't getting a dime.
Exactly right.
Sure.
So anyway, on the financial side, everything seems to be as expected.
My turn.
Yes.
Unless you guys.
No, I'm gonna wait till,
Okay, so I'm gonna cover that. We've done some things, Jeff isn't here, he hasn't been here for a while, has he? I don't know that there was anything this month though, that I need to talk about. Yes, there is. It came to my attention that there was some maintenance needed on one of our drainage areas up on Calvert Drive. So I looked at it, I talked to Jeff about it, and he said, yeah, it ought to be fixed. I thought maybe we could just go without me. This is a cap, there's a clean out for one of the, it's a large French drain, and you have to be able to clean it out in case it gets clogged. That French drain thing drains into a collection basin and then goes off to a creek. It's a whole thing. And evidently a truck, according to the neighbor, one of our contractors actually, ran over this drain and broke the cap. So I bought a new cap and put it on. It was really expensive. $13 or
Don't pay for the reimbursement because it wasn't pre-approved.
Tony has
And you
to
have
sign off
three
on that.
estimates.
something. And, so I think that's the only thing that's happened in the last month.
Where did this happen?
Up on Calvert Drive,
Okay.
to be specific, it's right here.
Okay.
That's Mill Creek, I'm sorry. That's still a Mill Creek there, isn't it? Sure is.
That's
On that corner of Mill Creek, it used to flood the guy's yard. And there was some mitigation of that, that's been many years ago. And our Rodney, our casual labor person, has put out, I think he's got them all out now, all of the little stakes to keep the snow plows in the right of way. If without them, they would move the stone and ruin our swales that have stone on them and stuff, so. There are places where he's got that, we ran short because we had more area this year because of some of the work we've done, so that's done. And he's done a pretty, I've been out checking his work, he's doing okay with mowing. I gave him a couple of suggestions, and it's time for that thing to go in the
And I
shop.
called Madison,
Yeah.
and he could certainly do that, but he doesn't know, he no longer can pick it up. He has no employees, he's doing it all himself now, and he just can't get out here to pick it up. He said, if you can get it to me, I can do it. He suggested,
Some person who will do it for us.
no,
Trans-
place in Lesby, is it Lesby Hardware in Prince Frederick? Right downtown Prince Frederick,
Yeah.
the old park. He said, give them a call, they might be able to pick it up. So,
Do we know anybody that's got a flatbed truck?
can't
Is
go in
it-
the back of a pickup truck, we have ramps out there.
It's too wide,
Oh, is it?
won't go in there. Unless you've got, you know, a truck, pickup truck with no sides.
Right.
It's, altogether is like 60 inches wide, which is a foot over
Right.
what you can get in the back of a pickup truck. If we had a trailer,
I mean, I do have a trailer, you know what a trailer is.
Hint.
if we had a trailer and someone that could
What are the-
haul it,
What are the dimensions that you're trying to?
it's about 60 inches wide. Let's call it 60 inches square.
Well, you know,
It'll go in your
I go without the tailgate on, and it's only 8 feet wide,
Long.
my trailer,
It'll fit on there.
right?
We should try it. And I can haul it with my truck. Let's do that.
I can haul with mine, huh?
Yeah, well, between us, we can get it done.
I guess he's finished for the year, I don't know.
I
There's
would
still
think
some
we're-
places where Carl needed to get to
Well, Carl,
first, and
which
he'll
is
be
my
doing
next
bush
one.
hogging, so.
Carl is at work, but Carl works at a speed 7. How long is it gonna take? Well, it really doesn't matter, because it's a 3-year cutback, and the longer he waits to get it done, it'll be that much longer before we have to do it again, so. We did have a call though we had 2 calls from neighbors, one of them saying, oh, great, you did a great job. Another one saying, hey, you're cutting into my yard. So I went out and looked at it this morning. We're not cutting into their yard. People are a bit proprietary with our right of way. So I think we probably need to send them a note or something. Or and if they really
To say,
don't feel good, I'll go talk.
to say that you stopped you.
I looked at it
it's
and
finished.
we're in our right of way, and I would suggest my direction to Carl would be, just clean up what you've done.
I called him,
And
because
let
you
it
had
go.
sent that in an email.
Because he was a bit aggressive.
He was, but had you looked at that area at all? I mean, there were,
He
you
did
know.
a great job.
No, I
He
mean,
did
before he
cut
started, because I met him out there the other day, and there was a number of, not huge trees, but pretty good sized trees, tall, dead, leaning into other trees. And that was his concern, is that, you know, they come
These
down.
are, those, I don't remember the name of those trees, but they're very fast growing, and they're very soft wood, and they have poor root structure,
Right,
and they just come down. They break off,
right.
sort of like a Bartlett pear, they'll break off, or they'll just blow over.
Yeah, this is
And
sort of, it was like an inch.
they've gotten too big, so what he did was fine.
Right.
He turned them up so that they would have less chance.
Were they native trees or did someone plant them?
No, there's
Yeah.
volunteers.
He did wonder then about the bush, I called him to say, you know, go ahead and clean up what you've done, you know,
And
it's
bush
fine, it's a good job, and this, don't cut anymore, just, but he said with the bush hogging, he's a little concerned about doing the full width of the bush hog. I said, well, whatever you've trimmed in, go ahead and bush hog, just don't bush hog beyond that.
Right,
I mean, does
yeah,
that make
yeah.
sense?
What he has not done is cut down any of the shrubs. There's some
Right.
shrubs that are fairly tall, but they're not encroaching on the road and they're slow growing,
Okay,
the boxwoods. Don't mess with them,
okay,
just,
all right, I'll tell him.
anyway. So he'll be moving along to the other areas,
Yeah.
and I'm sure we'll get some more phone calls, we always do. Every time.
What's life without phone calls?
Right, so that's, I don't think I have anything else to it, no. If I think of it, I'll yell.
Bonnie,
I do have a few things. As you know, the Phragmites treatment happened late September, early October. And we discovered by driving around and checking out some of the sites that even last year, this is our second year doing this, the provider, Mark Smith, missed a place called Lake Terrace, and there apparently is some confusion about whether that was private property or Drum Point Common property, and so he didn't do it.
it was the one where the woman came out and said we were trespassing, we nicely pointed out that no.
And she said, yeah,
Yeah,
please
then she,
spray it.
but anyway, it got missed.
But so it got missed, so it's the second year it got missed, so now Mark Smith wasn't aware of it, so he's now aware of it, and next year I'll have to be sure he remembers that he has to treat that for the first time, but everything else got treated. And, yeah, I owe you a blurb for the newsletter, which I'll get you on that.
I have a couple of groups that are owed to me.
Blur. You want a couple? Blur, blur.
Thank you.
And then the other point is I have to talk to Robin Monikaisen, or if that's how you pronounce her name, about where we are in the approval process for removal of the dead canes and then planting. And with respect to the planting, I also want to find out who we talk to see if we can get any free plantings from the county. That is possible, I just don't know.
It's wrong.
Robin,
Oh, she is too, okay. Now, I understand that we wouldn't be able to plant those free plantings until next fall, but that's okay. But if we could remove the canes in the spring and we could figure out a plan for what we want to go in and know what we can get from the county, then we can fill in with whatever else.
You don't wanna plant in the spring anyway. It's
Okay.
too hard.
Okay, so we would wait, but we'll at least get rid of the canes, or we could wait till I mean, okay, I guess.
Well, I'd like
They're
to see the
ugly.
cane go away.
Yeah,
as soon as
everybody is
possible.
tired of
Everybody's-
looking at the dead
yeah.
canes,
It's
so,
be nice.
so
But,
we
you
should
know,
get rid of it.
we were awful when we couldn't get them removed,
Yes,
then we
yeah.
got them killed, and now we're awful because we can't get them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Mark Smith is adamant to just let them stay forever until they kind of keel over.
They'll
And down
rot on their own.
on Surf Drive, I think, or whatever that street is down there, that they are kind of keeling over on their own, but still they're ugly and we want to get rid of them. So that'll be probably for the spring. He wanted us to wait at least 6 weeks for the current sprayed crop to be killed.
Yeah, we can wait and
But
see
let's
what
wait till,
Mother
let's wait till
Mother
the
Winter
spring,
does.
let's wait till the spring to get rid of them.
Good snow will lay it down.
And then because it's an invasive species, we actually wouldn't have to do anything for 2 years to see what would come back on its own. So that's where we are with all that.
Peter, are we all safe? How should we feel?
Well, I do have two things. One, this is an emergency communication backup that we keep in the shack here. I think last time I said we had a countywide emergency, simulated emergency net, which we did within the Calvert Amateur Radio Association. And we checked out all our capabilities countywide. And I wrote up an article, I think, for the newsletter for RIA on that exercise. Then, I don't know if I reported it here, but 14 of us went in and met in the Emergency Operations Center with Al Jeffries, who is the head of the Emergency Operations Center and 9/11 Center. And he briefed us on all the latest goings on up there, and we updated all our members and got IDs and got passwords for access to the EOC internal communications net. which they use for in an emergency, which they would activate in an emergency. So that was somewhat of a surprise to me, because actually this Drum Point Associates was the only one that had an outside access, but he gave it to the licensed hands who were present because we would be deployed in various areas to shelters. You know, it'd be something like going in Paradise, California. I mean, it would be a horrible disaster to take something like this to undertake. The last simulation they did up there with EOC, though, I don't know if I mentioned this, but they simulated a total evacuation of the county east of Route 2 and 4, which includes the hospital and includes just about everything. And I've been to some of these meetings, and to evacuate Calvert Memorial Hospital is almost impossible because of the requirements for patients, transportation. I mean, I don't know how you could do the whole county, but if we did have a radiation exposure, say blowing from the north, that would mean evacuation everywhere south and east of Route 2 and 4. So, I mean, it's not outrageous to begin to think in terms of the serious disasters similar to what California is going through. So we all took this in stock and are thinking about it. But geez, I would hate to ever think evacuating the whole east portion of this county, or even a quarter of it. You know, you can divide it any way you want.
Especially if you have a deadline.
It would be a serious undertaking. Many people would be left behind because they don't want to be on the need assistance for evacuation or whatever. But emergency planning, I mean, you could do what you could do, and you can plan, and you can have so much resources developed to try to prepare. But when it comes down, the curtain comes down, just like California, they were all prepared. They had their emergency planning, and sometimes the overload is more than you can handle. So anyway, our emergency communication is really designed for, it would have to be a pretty bad situation. And the chances are, if this place was off limits, we would go remote and mobile with communications and probably deploy to wherever, you know, is still safe probably. But they grapple with it all the time, and so we're just an adjunct of that, the southern leg of a communication system that would be called into place if pretty much everything else fails. But it does happen. So that's, I don't have anything having to do local with the beach or anything. So I just want to let you all know that we do keep active in this. And we haven't charged our budget anything. I've been trying to, but until the planning in Calvert County gets squared away, what frequencies and what the antennas they're going to do, I'm just not going to invest a lot of money in our shop, and it wouldn't be a whole lot anyway. But the county has got some problems on their hands in moving their communications to the new towers and so forth. That's it.
Well, thank you very much. By the way, if they deploy you to Paradise, go with God. And I'm grateful I'm not God.
Yeah, that is so horrible. Still going on.
Whoa. Back to Riaz, the welcoming committee.
Doing the property updates, you know, once a month or so. And I actually gave out one bucket, so there's just two left back there, so you know. An owner came in, but Cindy had actually called her, but then she happened in, so I gave her her bucket, and she was very, very pleased to get it. But once I do the property updates and the transfers, if I don't have like a phone number or an email address, sometimes I can get those. I send a letter, just a basic welcome letter to the newcomers, and it has a map in it and just one informational sheet, and suggesting that they come in or call me or what have you, and that we have a small get-up waiting for them. I think only one or two of the letters have been responded to. So I think, you know, you're in the middle of a move, you get that, and you think, oh yeah, cool, and you set it
Yeah.
aside and then you forget it.
Yeah.
So there's that. But Cindy has been contacting quite a few, by phone or email, whenever I get that. And she applied, you have to apply actually at ACE to get these buckets. So they came in the other day and I went and picked up 15 buckets. So, we're good. That's it.
Moving right along.
Yeah.
All right, old business. Well, neither Alicia or John are here, so we really can't do too much about it. My understanding is that where we're hung up on is we don't really know how much insurance is gonna cost us, and we're still not getting any closer to that. There's still some question about if we do go ahead, and if we do it, will we do it at the beach, or, I guess the Hawkins lot is this one right across the street.
It is. Gary, you had suggested
Yeah.
that be added.
And, you know, but my only concern about this Hawkins lot, I mean, it's the intersection of the two busiest streets in the community. It's gonna require at least some sort of cyclone fence or something.
That's a good point.
Yeah, actually, Rhea and I talked about that when I suggested it, it just doesn't seem like, when you really start thinking about it, it's just not a very appropriate place.
I mean, it's a nice lot and all of that, but, you know, it's the two
Do better as
busiest.
a parking lot.
Yeah, it's the two busiest streets we have.
Yeah, from a safety point of view, I can see kids kicking a ball or tricycle going out
Yeah.
That's
there.
exactly right.
No way,
Yeah.
no
Right.
way, unless you put up a huge fence there.
Right.
Yeah, you know, and,
No.
you know, the other thing, you know, we've been playing with this playground idea now for what, over a year? And you know, the other thing that we really have to sort of do a little thinking about, either we somehow start moving this, or we give it up. I mean, otherwise, you know, how many times can we talk about the playground and we all sit here and we go, yeah, it's all very, very necessary and blah, blah, blah. But either we have to do something about it, or we just say, hey, look, we can't do it, it's too expensive, it's too this or it's too that, and we just can't do it. But, because, I mean, it's a nice topic to talk about once a month, but.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, because I missed the last meeting, but wasn't John Manka looking into like cost, and you go to Chesapeake Ranch Estates or something and
Yes,
find
yeah.
out how they?
Oh, you were.
I
there,
actually
so-
called,
You did?
I called
Okay.
CRE, was that at the last meeting? I don't
Yes,
know.
yes.
I couldn't remember, but just real quickly, they kind of don't really worry about, well, I don't remember, do they have insurance on it, or it's, they don't do like a regular checklist for
Okay.
maintenance. If somebody's there cutting grass, they'll look at it, oh, looks good to me. If they see something, then they fix it, but they didn't really seem to have a big, you know, routine of how to take care of it. And I think she said the insurance, it's all in with their regular big policy, so she really couldn't tell me how much it might cost. That's what it was. But they didn't seem too concerned about the, you know, liability issue and the concern to keep the maintenance.
Yeah, it's
record.
nothing to worry about before that.
That's right, yeah, well, why do you have insurance?
And I've never had a response from the county as far as asking about Solomons and that little one that they
Well,
had.
I see a note here about talking to our attorney, and I think that's probably a good idea. Remember, our attorney, we pay him a pretty hefty retainer, and with that comes communication by email or phone, pretty much unlimited. As long as he doesn't have to write an opinion or anything, he'll give advice.
Yeah, I think all we need at this point is verbal advice, just sort of, you know, if he comes out with a, what are you guys, crazy?
Now,
We don't need a memo.
I would almost guarantee that he's been through this because of all,
Yeah.
most of his clients are up in Rockville
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh,
yeah.
Montgomery
Okay,
County.
okay.
Oh, yeah, they-
Yeah.
Could you do like a conference call, maybe here in the office?
Yeah, we could do that.
And you, since you've spoken with Tom Sheila.
Yeah, should,
Often,
yeah, and-
Tony.
well, I hired him originally, so
When we do it, yeah.
introduce.
You know,
I
it-
could see us drop it completely regular, it has to be shelved if it's not gonna go anywhere, but I think it's a drop, because we still would like to use that beach, improve that beach.
Well, yeah, we can improve the beach without adding a
That's true.
playground.
Right.
But, you know, but I just somehow feel that, you know, we should have something where people with young children don't have to get in their car and drive 6 miles to
No, I
find the
agree,
playground.
yeah.
You know, there should be something that they can use within the community I think. And if we can do it at a reasonable cost, then we can go, I think we can get away with it. But anyway, we've gotta figure out,
So maybe, because you're the one that, you're not here all the time, when would be a good time for you to,
well, when do you wanna do it? Next week, one day next week?
are you in town?
I
Are you
will,
in
I will be
town?
here all of next week.
I don't know,
Oh. Is that an English answer?
but I can find out. Let's see. Today's the 13th, and next week is,
That's the Thanksgiving.
No, that's right.
yeah, I'm gonna be here next week. We don't have to be together to do it, I mean, we can do a conference call,
Oh,
conference. We have the technology,
technology's amazing.
so,
You mean I can do that on my cell phone?
yeah, you probably can.
Yeah, from
You can
home,
do it online.
from your.
That doesn't, no, maybe you can do it on my cell phone, and you can do it on your cell phone. That doesn't mean I can do it on my cell phone.
Gary, I don't know
I
how
can
to
do
do
it from
it,
my
can
home
you
phone.
like start the ball rolling and?
Sure.
But if you all could meet here and just do it from here.
Yeah, you let me know
Well,
what's
yeah.
happening, and I'll drive over.
The speakerphone that we have works
Yeah.
That's probably
Quite well.
better than any conference call.
Yeah, let me,
Because
you
it's-
let me know when,
that's what it's
I'll be
made for.
here.
Okay, so next week, you're saying, Gary, you are in town.
I am?
Next week's Thanksgiving,
Yeah,
okay,
I'm not going anywhere.
Tuesday, Wednesday.
Tuesday, Wednesday?
Let's put a nail in the ground. Let's put a stake in the ground, and then a nail in the
And
stake.
hammer and
How
hammer.
about Tuesday?
Okay.
Tuesday.
He's on big hammer. Tuesday,
Tuesday.
what time?
Mid-afternoon? Or
Yeah, you have to call,
Crap shoot.
she'll,
Or
you
is-
have to call.
I'll
Find out.
front end it. I'll
Yeah,
call.
yeah.
Find out
Make sure
when
he's
he's available, because that's, you might be off.
Yeah.
Might be on
Because of Thanksgiving.
vacation.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
That is, no, that's Thursday.
yeah, but that whole week, a lot of people leave
That's right.
early in the week.
All right, so we'll try that.
And I'll come up with a list of what I think we should ask him, a few things.
Well, we know they're gonna say no to our seesaw, so, we're.
That's okay.
The leg
Bad
breaker.
memories of seesaw.
The leg breaker.
Even swings, we put
Swings,
one
yeah.
up
What
at
time
our
do they
school in Silver Spring, and they wouldn't allow us to put up
I don't know,
swings.
when's he?
And that's what the kids wanted.
They wouldn't let you do swings
They
because
wouldn't let us do swings.
even in this new condo, or this new apartment
Because they
building that my
swing
daughter.
back and, they can hit a kid running behind and, but that's, that was in Silver Spring, so it might be different here, I
In
don't know.
Manhattan, my daughter's building has swings.
Yeah, no,
I find swings to be
yeah.
least offensive.
But
You know,
they can-
swings and jungle gyms are.
But they can,
You
they
put
can
rubber
go
seats
up
on.
to do.
Yeah, that's the other thing, you put rubber seats on them.
Yeah, that was the
The
fun
legs are
part,
really-
jumping off.
I know.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's the whole part of it,
No,
you're
no,
right.
no, and I remember the kids in Fairmount Park, see if you can get the thing going high enough so you almost fall off the back. Oh, no. No.
Yeah, stand up on a swing.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. No,
yeah, that was pretty fun.
Now we know why you weren't
Yeah,
allowed.
we all know, yeah.
We all survived. you know,
We're all-
within
we're all
a meeting,
describing
we're all
our
here, we all did all
misspent
that
youth.
stuff.
Right.
Anyway, we just gotta figure out what we're gonna do, and if we're gonna do it, we do it, and if we're not, we bow out.
Well, but at least bring it to fruition, like,
Oh, yeah,
this is
yeah.
what we did, these are
Yeah,
the steps,
Yeah,
we looked at
and
it,
this is
tried.
why we can't do it,
Yeah,
and,
Mhm.
be
Bring
logical
bring it
about
to
it.
a close.
Right.
All right, I guess that's it. Anybody have anything else? Any new business they wanna throw out there?
No, just old.
Peter, come on, you wanna say something?
Oh, that's what we did.
Well, getting back to the nominating committee.
Oh,
Sorry, guys, but, it's that time of year, and we don't wanna do what the Drum Point Club did, and you know all about that, Gina. And it's always left to the last moment. I've been trying to come up with a solution for the nominating committee, because this has been going on for about 15, 20 years. I still think our bylaws ought to be changed or adjusted or whatever they are. That a member of the board should be on the nominating committee as a duty, so that it doesn't get cast aside. And I think this idea of separating, all you're doing is taking one person, you gotta have at least three people on the nominating committee, and having one people from the board does not make the board in charge of the nominations. So, I mean, the argument that you gotta distance yourself from the board when you get nominees, I think is not, doesn't hold a lot of water. I think that rather than always trying to face this in November, so we come up with the candidates in December, and rather than having a standing committee that goes year round, as Tricia, I think, suggested once, or somebody else, years ago. I sent a memo to the board once saying that I really felt that it would not break precedence to have a member of the board be on the committee. The yacht club nominating committee is made up by the board members, so maybe you can have it either way. But that would be a suggestion I have for the board to consider again if they want to. It would keep the board posted, it would keep us going and not do this all at the last moment, which is tedious. But it has to be done fairly early, so the so-called committee then has time to spend January, February, and March to come up with the candidates. So I just throw this out as an idea. It is something that is very important to the board. It's important to the community to get good candidates like we do for the last 4 or 5 years. It's been a wonderful board compared to years past. But it always is a challenge right now, so that's the only suggestion I have, Mr. President. And I suggest that we try to find somewhat of a fix so that we don't hit this bump in the road every November or December. And then one time we had 2 committees, neither one recognizing the other. That wasn't fun.
Strange.
And it gets.
Did we double the size of the board?
What I'm saying is, I think it's a more important job than we give it its due during the year. I mean,
Absolutely true.
that's fairly obvious, and I would ask everybody to sort of think how we can try to solve this.
Yeah,
I'll be
okay.
quiet.
To tail on that, let me point out that every year we have a committee, but who goes and finds people? Usually it's people on the board,
Yeah.
and we refer them to the committee. It's the committee's job to go find people. Just saying, Peter's right. I approached it back when Peter had first had the idea and it was shot down by the members at the time.
Well, that's the whole thing. If we try to change the bylaw, and I agree with you, I don't think having one member of the board is gonna suddenly corrupt the whole process. It's the getting shot down by the members that may happen. Because, you know, some people are just willing to see conspiracy and corruption everywhere.
My view is give it a shot, let them try to shoot
But
it.
those people today don't have any voting rights.
I wasn't
those
speaking of
5,
any,
6
I wasn't
Well, one of
speaking
them
of any individuals, mind.
One of them does.
Okay, one, oh wow.
Well, one person doesn't a community make.
Yeah, that's true.
So could this
I
be,
think we learned that several years back, that 2 or 3 people cannot force this board and community to do what they want.
could this be done at the general meeting?
That's where it is.
Well, it has
It's
to be
where it has to
presented
be
at
done,
the
yeah.
The one coming up?
and then you can ask for, people, volunteers or
Yeah,
whatever.
for the bylaw.
But I'm
change.
saying changing the bylaws could be
Oh.
done. The general meeting, could we do it, or just bring it up?
I don't know if they can be changed, like with a motion from the floor.
I think so.
I
Can
don't know.
Bylaws,
How do we
covenants
find-
can't be,
How do we
but
find out?
bylaws are
It'd be
changed
in
by
the
the
bylaws.
general
Yeah, but
members.
you would have to, well,
It doesn't have to be a mail ballot though,
but it would have to be a quorum, I don't know.
to be a quorum.
But a quorum
December
can
isn't
exist
likely.
the way there always
Yeah,
exists on
the next meeting.
For the next
Yeah.
meeting, I was
Yeah.
gonna look to see whose positions are up.
And
Yeah.
I would check on that, thing about the bylaws.
It's in my
Of when you know,
How do we change it?
yeah, who can change
It
it.
takes a vote, so I think it's more than a 50% vote. though.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, there's some
50%
bylaws.
of the vote of the entire membership?
No,
I think it's up to the discretion
I'm
of the
pretty sure it's
board.
at a
The
meeting.
entire, the
Oh.
entire, no, I think, I would check that,
Mail in.
it has to be the entire community.
Oh, my God.
Oh, they give
That
that
would
up.
happen, yeah.
I don't
That would
believe,
happen.
that's only for the covenants.
I think
Okay.
that's the covenant.
Yeah, the
Okay.
covenants,
Well, I know the covenants that way.
I don't think that's true of the bylaws.
It could be.
It would be in the bylaws.
Good thing to ask the attorney.
Because if you read the
Well,
bylaws,
He's
Yeah,
gonna,
Maria's
yeah,
looking it up.
that's where it's written, it's not
it's
in
in
the
the
covenants.
bylaws.
If you wanna change the covenants, that's a whole new ballgame.
It's not
I mean, you
possible.
can change, you
We've come
can
to that.
change the bylaws just by having a general meeting.
Yes,
Well, it's gonna be advertised, but there's some parameters around it.
well, you've gotta have,
Advance
it
notice.
has to be announced, the subject matter and the issue has to be announced in advance. If the quorum doesn't show up, then you have to do issue, reason, special meeting, and
Yeah,
then the
it's all
quorum
fine.
shows up. And if there are a lot of people that object to it, believe me, they'll show up. On this issue, I really don't think they're gonna care.
Well,
Let me have your bylaw, your, thing.
Can we,
I don't have mine
is
with
there
me.
I
time
don't know
to
if that
send
would
this
be-
out?
The bylaws are.
There's one in my folder
Any-
there.
Any one of them.
Rhea, you have
It's
some
in there.
information?
In my folder there, that, yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's a Michael start, every time you bring it up every single time, explain the case for it.
They were
Ready to
amended
hear, maybe.
in 2006.
Well, the point is then the board member who wants, I mean, it can be
Yeah, I don't think
rotated among
Yeah.
people.
Probably not that
At
hard.
least can say,
It's not
well,
something you go at
in
like.
July, this person
yeah.
talked to me, in August, this person spoke to me. And last year, we had these people that said, not this year, but I'd be happy to do it next year. I mean, those kinds of things just, wipe off the map, we have to start from zero. I mean, I can argue this case for a long time.
You sound weary of it.
Well, I just watched what happened at the Drum Point level. That
What
was-
happened at the gun point?
Well,
Maybe you don't wanna say.
by March, we hadn't had a nominating committee named. The nominating committee hadn't come up with any candidates. And then according to their bylaws, it was all too late to do any of that legally. Anything you would have done would have been in violation. So the best thing that the Drum Point Association did was to say, we're gonna skip
But that's
elections
her,
this year.
this would be her,
I
she
think
got
that was
elected in her
it,
own
wasn't it?
right, did she come in?
Without
Oh, she
a
came
full
in
board.
when full
As a
board.
result.
Well, we figured that would violate less laws
Yeah,
than
yeah.
just saying
Okay,
we're,
so she has to,
it's
okay,
gonna
so
stand the way it is.
so,
I
yeah,
guess,
so we're
Gino,
talking
isn't
about
it?
Yeah, yeah, I mean,
Asha.
but some
Bonnie
people have-
and Jenna.
Yes.
I don't know if they're actually on the board, but they're kind of
That's right,
acting,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know, like Tim Hanson
Mm-hmm.
and,
All right, guys, the people who have to running, we need 3 candidates, and the 3 that are on the board right now that would have to run, Asha, Bonnie, and
I
Jenna.
have one more year to go there. This is my second year.
But you replaced Paula.
I did? Oh, I didn't know that when I
Yeah.
came, I didn't realize I replaced somebody.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
So will you run again?
sure.
There you go.
Asha,
Good job, yeah, all right.
there you go, Jenna.
yeah.
Thank you.
There we go, well,
I made
we
it.
have 3 candidates. We have 3 candidates, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, you should still have a nominating.
Yeah, we should have a nominating committee, yeah. But
So
we
it's not
can,
gonna be difficult.
but can we burn white smoke? We have 3 candidates.
Well, now we need 2.
Well, and
You know, we have 3.
I've got
Who's the
candidates.
third? Are
One,
you gonna run again,
Okay.
Gina?
Okay.
And who's the third?
Gotcha.
Asha, you're doing it again?
Yeah, so,
Well, wait a minute, now,
Yay.
we can have an ostensible, we have to have a nominating committee.
yeah.
Right.
Right.
So you need a
there's-
nominal nominating
It
committee.
could be it.
I'll be on the nominating committee and get
Well,
two other
Wait,
You
people.
Can
need
you
to
do
have
it
some
all by
others
one?
just to-
Or can you say, member number 1 is Peter, number 2, member number 2 is
I mean,
Holt?
consider,
But we still have to
Well,
go
it's-
out to the
Check the advertising.
community.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, it's
That's
announced
right.
at general meeting.
Yeah.
but if
That's right. Yeah,
if
Dawn,
nobody else
maybe
is
Dawn.
nominated from the
I
floor,
know
then I
Adrian's
think it
awfully
just.
busy,
Yeah.
but maybe.
We don't have to work too hard, we can announce it, but we don't have to work too, I mean, before we've gone through the list, we called everybody in the membership.
You gotta, yeah, what you have to, you have to have a nominating committee. They have 3 nominees, maybe see if they wanna find another one.
We need 2 other members of the nominating committee.
Just to be pro forma.
Absolutely, by the bylaws, we have to
Oh,
have
maybe
one.
it's-
Ralph, Ralph, be happy to do it. He's unemployed now.
No, we're still doing the membership.
What's the Saturday?
Yeah, they are, he's contributed.
Oh, I stand corrected.
What?
That's.
Take some mail out.
No way, to
To
change the
change-
Yeah, I think
bylaws?
that's it.
In Article 15, the bylaws of this association shall be amended if approved by a majority of those votes cast by, those votes cast
See, so people.
by
don't-
mail ballot or
Oh.
by
That's okay.
2/3 of the votes cast at a duly, I stopped at the
There
first
you
sentence.
go.
Or duly
Oh,
called
duly
membership
meeting.
meeting is 2/3, provided all proposed changes are submitted to the property owners in writing 15 days prior to the vote.
That's it?
So it has to be an announced vote then.
Absolutely.
It's an
For a
announced
specific purpose.
Yeah, yeah, you
Okay.
can tell them exactly what we're gonna be voting on. You give them the exact wording,
And then we'll have a
but
meeting.
then you have to
I
have.
vote yes.
I vote yes.
I'll just say this for the,
Checks and papers.
Then you're gonna figure out who gets on the board to be part of the nominee. That's what you're gonna have to figure out.
Yeah,
well,
We'll cross that bridge,
secretary
you know,
would be the
'cause we're, I mean, it
secretary.
might not
Yeah,
get,
that sounds like a secretary.
And I'm not saying this is gonna solve all our problems either.
no, but at least it.
But it will.
well, here's the, why did this come about? Because you get people on that committee and they don't have any direction. So what I did was I wrote up a suggested set of directions. And why do we have a nominating committee? Well, it's to find good candidates. So I suggested that, they put together a list of questions, ask the people for a resume so that you know who they are, and that sort of thing, and that helped.
Well,
But
yeah.
a lot of times, it depends on who's on the things, I was told a couple of times, well, we don't wanna use that, well, you don't have to, it's just a procedure, it's a guideline, it's a suggestion. But the thought that you'll just take anybody that walks in the door and put them on the ballot,
Yeah.
well, what do you need a committee for that for? And in Robert's Rules of Order, it's very clear, committees are to find qualified candidates. You don't have
But
to
you have to-
qualified unless you talk to them.
Part of finding them is having them maybe respond that they might be interested, and would you send something out in the newsletter saying we're looking for people that might be interested to submit their names to our nominating
No,
committee?
who would be interested?
Well, we run
Let's
it
do
through the
that.
office
It's-
because
it's
it's
been-
easier.
There before, like last year I did a piece, asking for people for the nominating committee.
Oh, okay.
I think that was the year then, actually, I wonder if Adrian read that, because he came up to me after the meeting and he said, I'll be on the committee.
Because we have
That
to
was
announce
last
the
year.
committee at the December general
Right.
membership.
Right,
So if
so-
Adrian's interested, maybe that's.
Well, I don't know, that's what I was wondering, if maybe one of you two could, Adrian or
Send-
Dawn.
A spouse, one of you is spouses, Nancy won't do it, I know, I asked her many times. It's not hard to do, especially if you already have 3 candidates.
Well, especially if it's 3 for 3 and
Yeah.
they're done by acclamation.
It's always better to have the
Mail
exact
and
number of
everything.
candidates, that way you can do it by,
Yeah, it's less
acclamation.
expensive and so on, so maybe if you guys wanted, Dawn or Adrian, either one.
Well, Jacqueline.
Jackson
next
and
door.
Adrian.
Oh, that's right,
Talk
okay.
to them.
Your cousin? No.
He spreads like so thin.
Is he?
Yeah, he
Okay.
really is. He's in New Orleans every
Oh,
other
is he?
week.
Oh, I didn't know
And
that.
yeah, he always likes to take on. I mean, if you asked him, he
Sure.
probably would say yes. But he always takes on more than he can
Sure.
do.
frankly,
Yeah.
it's just having your name on paper.
Yeah.
That's all it needs.
Since we
It's
have-
like the old TV act, we can do that. We
Yeah.
can do that.
Yeah, I was on that
If
committee.
we have the 3 people that we agree that we.
Yeah, I mean, he would do
Then
it if
then
he
you would just
asked
have to
him.
be, if it's a
Yeah.
pro forma thing where he would.
Yeah, I didn't know if
I'm
he had
watering
to
it
go
down on
to
it
like
here.
meetings or, I don't know completely what's involved.
You
in
you
that.
should have a meeting as a committee, and
Yeah.
then you submit the recommendations to the board, and you have minutes. And you say, well, we officially met, and then we voted, and this is the slate that we propose to the board. That's all you can do.
And all that's written up in the guidelines.
There is another requirement according to our bylaws, I think, that the nominating committee is supposed to put the ballots together if there is one, right?
Right.
And basically Rhea prints stuff out, and then we have to get together and fold and paste, and so, I mean, that was part of the obligation of the nominating committee.
Right.
Okay.
And then the votes are counted by a committee named by the board to count the votes. It's not the nominating committee's job to count the votes.
but
Yeah,
if we have,
that's a separate committee,
yeah, but if we have 3 candidates and 3 slots,
nothing.
acclamation, we save money.
But you gotta ask for candidates from the floor.
Well,
So,
and
and
that's
the floor,
I'm gonna
I know.
suggest too that I put something in the newsletter again for this go around saying, we're looking for people for the nominating committee. You can always have more than one. I mean, and, or would you like to serve on the board?
Yes.
That way sort of that fulfills the
Yeah, yeah.
obligation to say, hey,
Right.
community, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, I'll put that in my little,
And yeah, you can
my
put
little
it in your,
blurb.
yeah, your blurb. Your blurb just got bigger.
The minute somebody nominates themselves from the floor, that means we have to go to a mail
Right.
ballot.
Right.
Right,
And it
And,
can
as
happen,
we know.
and we did have
Oh, yeah.
people that
That
do
does
that.
happen.
it's happened.
Larry Rich nominated himself from the floor.
Larry?
Tricia Powell
did.
nominated herself from the floor. So we're not home free
No.
just to have those 3
Yeah.
candidates. I think in a mailed ballot, the current people would win. But I think doesn't mean much, you know, I've been wrong a lot of times. So,
No,
Name
not
2.
this year.
name 2. Like Trump. Was I ever wrong?
I'm troubled, I'm troubled.
Can't think of a time.
All right. Gee, nothing like a nominating committee to stretch out a meeting. Anyway. It's a very important subject. Anything else?
Were the pieces of asphalt ever removed from the beach, or
Not yet. Oh,
Yeah,
is that still on the books, or?
yeah, that was something Carl Bowen was gonna look at.
Did I miss it?
Well, to have it kind of raked and cleaned up a
Was I
little.
not here?
Well, we
Maybe
talked
not.
a couple times about getting the beach cleaned up, and there were a lot of pieces, it was more visible when the winds were blowing and the
Depending on the
sand
time
was
of
pushed
year.
up, and there was a lot of pieces, loose pieces of asphalt.
Yeah, we do that every year and there's still loose pieces.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and I
They
understand,
multiply.
Sort of a,
yeah,
They
it was
reach
it was
a critical
particularly
mass and
bad
multiply.
recently, but, yeah, just wondering if that,
it's
yeah.
probably best, maybe at this point, wouldn't it be best to wait until early spring and,
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know, it's a good time.
Well-
It's gotta be,
when they're exposed.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
exposed.
did,
Yeah,
we did
low
better
tide.
when
Yeah.
yeah, when the tides are low and.
Low tide.
Low
It's in the
tides
fall.
come in January.
January,
Yeah.
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 Oh, wait, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
No, I was just nominating committee.
Oh, I was thinking, Gary, who was the gentleman whose parents lived in the Drum Point, and he did the beach for us one year? Do you remember that?
No.
He has a little company, well, it's a little
I
company, he has a
can't remember
company, and,
yesterday though, so sorry.
let's see if I can find it. I don't know, that was it, good.
No, so we're on the nominating committee. Jack, you're gonna talk to Adrian, and, okay, we need a third.
Adrian and Dawn.
Both of them?
Can they do that? Is that, can
Can
you
we
raise
have
your
a
hand?
husband and wife team? Sure. Yeah, why not? Okay, yeah, let's see if we can do it and I'll take care of it. All right. Is there anything else, ladies and gentlemen? All right then, this meeting's adjourned.
No, you forgot the date.
What
For the
day?
next meeting.
Oh, the next meeting, oh, such fun, and I forgot. That's right. But we talked about that, it was supposed to be,
September 4th.
that's right, we said it was gonna be earlier rather than later.
What?
When's the general meeting?
The eighth.
The 8th, Saturday the 8th, and the next board meeting would be Tuesday the 4th.
I won't be here.
I'm not gonna be here for the 4th, I won't be able to call that either.
Okay. Are you here for the general?
I'll be
Yes,
in
I'll be here for the general.
10 a.m. Saturday.
It starts at 10, but you should be there early.
Okay.
Drink coffee, eat donuts, etc.
Yeah,
So,
the letter
okay,
being the most
So
important.
the general membership meeting, so the board meeting is on the 4th and the general membership meeting is on the 8th.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember we had, that's right, we decided to go early because on the 20th I leave on vacation.
Right.
Yeah.
And Gary, did you say you are or are not here?
I won't be here on the 4th.
What about the 8th?
I'll be here for the 8th.
Any more cross-country trips this year?
It's at 10 o'clock?
Starts at 10, but
Maria, what's on the agenda for the general meeting besides the nominating committee?
that's really it. I
That's
think.
about it?
I think so.
There's nothing else big on the agenda, budget or anything like that?
No, that doesn't come until after the first of the year, March or so. Well, that's not even,
And
Doesn't
the,
come in
and the budget was approved because of the last meeting, we didn't have a quorum.
so September was,
Yeah.
expect a big turnout then on the 8th of
December's
December.
usually one of those that we don't have a turnout, and so then we vote, and the March meeting is fun.
Can we nominate a committee?
Oh,
If we don't have a
I
quorum?
don't know.
Do we need a quorum to have a nominating
No, I
committee?
think it could,
The board can just,
we present the.
No,
Yeah, you're just
committee.
presenting the committee.
Okay.
I
Come
don't
on,
think
guys,
you're,
didn't anybody read these things with me?
Else,
Wait,
You never-
you could have stopped with, don't you, does anybody else read besides me?
I'm just trying
I
I think
think
we're
you
just
just
presenting,
Just trying to
presentation.
think
I think it's a written.
you present the committee.
Yeah,
Yeah, the board creates the committee. And you can do that by phone at the 4th December meeting.
yes, yeah,
So-
because there'll have to be a motion to add you and Adrian and Dawn if they,
Well,
to the committee.
Yeah.
To the, no,
That's what I mean.
at the 4th,
If
one of
they
them
agree.
is it, yeah.
on the 4th December meeting.
Yes.
And then that will be enough to give to the board at the general meeting.
At the December membership meeting, the board shall appoint a nominating committee at least 3 property owners. Those appointed shall reflect, where possible, the different sections of the subdivision, where possible. No current board
Same
members
house is
shall
good.
be on the committee.
Oh, two from the same house, huh?
So they're just presented, the board
Yeah.
creates it and presents it, that's all.
The
Okay,
only thing I can see that could happen if there's not a quorum, so you present the committee, and somebody speaks up and says, hey, I'd like to be on the committee. So then the board would have to, I think, make,
At the March
at,
meeting?
no, at the December meeting, where they present the nominating committee.
Oh,
You
okay.
present the nominating committee, it's these 3 people. And
Okay.
somebody stands up, but you've approved them at the December 4th board meeting, right? A
Right.
motion is made to approve these 3 people for the committee. Done.
that has to be done.
Yes, so December 8th, somebody stands up and says, I want to be on the committee too. If there's not a quorum, they can't be appointed, but they could be appointed at the next board meeting.
They could be.
Yeah, so then we
I'm just
appoint
saying,
them
that's what,
Like,
yeah.
on interim
Board
or
meeting or
something.
general?
Yeah, but if there's
Well,
no
that's too late.
quorum at the
Yeah.
March meeting,
It's too late because the nominating committee has to be done at the 12th meeting.
Yep.
So somebody's standing up, it's too late because.
Oh, they
the-
couldn't then later be on the,
I don't think so.
appointed? Okay.
well, we're talking about the December meeting.
And you're gonna send, the newsletter will be out there then, can you ask for people that might wanna be on the nominating committee?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to
They
do.
could be
that'll be-
appointed at the February meeting
What?
by the board.
According to the bylaws?
Yeah, well, you can, yeah, the bylaws, are you can.
Why does it have to go back to January or February?
If there's no quorum,
Oh, I'm sorry, January,
Yeah.
missed a whole
if there's no
month.
quorum at the December meeting,
Yeah.
I should not have brought this up. If there's no quorum at the December general membership meeting, and a 4th person steps up and says, I would like to be on the nominating committee, he can't be appointed because there's no quorum. But in my thinking, at the January board meeting, that person could then be appointed and
appointed,
approved by
yeah.
the
Or
board.
made
Yeah.
part of the board.
Well,
Yeah.
Peter had asked, well, what if there's no quorum? And I'm just trying to put out there that
Yeah.
that's the only thing I can think
No,
of that could happen,
But, when
that
it
could
comes,
be an issue.
in the bylaws, when it talks about, committees in general, the board may add or delete at any meeting,
Yeah.
members of
Okay.
the committee.
Yeah, I mean, they don't serve for the community, they serve
serve the
at the
board.
boards.
So why
Exactly
is
right.
it important that, then, that you present this at the general meeting, if you can
I
add
think
people
it's-
otherwise? Is it
It's just,
a courtesy?
what we've done, yeah.
It's just a courtesy, it's
It
a
also lets
bylaws,
people know
so
that they're-
people know things are
Okay.
going
Yeah,
on.
it's
Yeah.
more open,
Yeah,
Okay.
transparent.
I'm not trying to hide it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Because, you know, we are told, I think, every year that, well, the reason the board gets along is because you picked your own people, that you know,
Well,
Who says that?
I've heard
Okay,
that for a while, but
Oh,
it
yeah.
just passed.
I mean,
Yeah.
if that's in fact the way it works, has anybody come up with an alternative?
Well, yeah.
Right.
Well,
Yeah,
there have been other people, outsiders have been on the ticket and run for office, and they didn't win.
Yes, that is correct.
it's, yeah.
It's not like you can't run, you can run. You don't have to be on the committee to run, you can stand up and say, I wanna run,
Exactly right.
at the meeting.
And the rubber
Absolutely.
response is, did you bring your trash shoes?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there's nothing holding people back.
Well, the important thing is to give people who wanna run
Mhm.
time enough then in February and March to campaign if they're really serious.
That's the whole,
That is the purpose of
I put up a big sign.
giving people
Amy and I
time.
went together and we put a big
And that's why
sign
we
there
put
right
out a
here.
biographic and what do you wanna do for the committee,
I remember a sign out there
I still have it.
just over there.
I had to
Anyway,
throw it
Fran-
away.
it wasn't, I don't remember it being for you, I remember it being for somebody else.
Oh, no,
Oh, that
actually,
one.
For Fran.
what's her name, Fran put one
Oh,
out there
did
the
she?
next year. Did the same thing,
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know that, I
Yeah.
don't remember that.
Yeah, Fran put one out.
Fran Borsch.
I think
She's.
desire for
That was
the office should
that
be
was-
automatic
that was for her.
disqualification.
Well, you know, when I first ran for the board, things were in such disarray that it was driving me nuts. And then one of those guys that decided if it's broken and you wanna fix it, then get your ass out there and do something about it, so that's what I did. So I
You
made
were
my
on the
last-
nominating committee, actually.
I was on the nominating committee to start with.
So we turned
And then
around and
ran.
said, Gary, run, and there's nothing that prevents,
That's right.
according to, the rules of the road, Roberts.
Things are running like a well-oiled machine right now, it's all good.
I haven't heard an argument in this room since, God, I don't know when.
I don't think it's ever.
You could tell things were running good when no one ever
Nobody
shows up.
shows up. Exactly right, it's when people show
I
up,
haven't seen.
that's when you have to worry.
I'm trying to
We've
think.
had this place full.
Yes, we have, a couple of times.
Other than Peter and,
I can't imagine deputies in here. I heard that.
yeah, deputies, oh, yeah.
What was
no,
really
It
no,
was
Well,
a
that's-
long
that's-
time, but
What was really
Ones that I remember.
discouraging about that was the deputy couldn't tell me why he was here, other than the sheriff told me to be here.
Whoa.
So somebody, I think I
Somebody
probably
told
know,
the
who
sheriff.
called and said,
And you gotta wonder, this reminds me of back when I was actually working for a living, to get a phone call from HR and to tell me that I did something wrong without ever calling me to ask me what I did. How do you know what I did? Did you call me and ask me? You took the employee's word without asking the manager? Are you thinking about what you're doing over there? That didn't put me in business. But that kind of thing, you know, why, if you're the sheriff and you get a phone call, there's gonna be trouble, wouldn't you call the people running the meeting and say, you know, I'm told there may be trouble, you know, and I've been asked to be there, is there something we can help you with, or something? No, none of that, it's crazy.
that was a membership meeting, wasn't it?
No, it was this one,
I don't remember that.
yeah, he was standing right there, stood right at the door.
I've heard rumors the community's coming with pitchforks and torches.
Yeah.
I think we'll cancel the meeting.
Come out the back door.
Yeah, I'm out of here.
Okay.
All right, folks, that's it. The meeting's
I
over.